Hi and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. I have done some book shopping. Barnes & Noble had their huge 50% off sale, and I was also really excited to go thrift book shopping after I came back from my trip. So today, as we end 2022, I wanted to show you some of the books that I've picked up over the past couple of weeks and what I bought at the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale. I will have timestamps in this video letting you know which part is which. And we're going to start with the books that I was gifted for Christmas, and we're going to start with the books that I thrifted. I was part of Meg's Patreon book club, and we did a secret Santa, and my secret Santa bought me The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, which I really appreciate and I'm so excited about. This is my third Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Low-key embarrassing that I own 3 of them and haven't read any of the 3, but they all sound like my thing. This cover is absolutely beautiful. So The Daughter of Dr. Moreau follows Carlota Moreau, and she is living on the island with her father, who is conducting these experiments on animals and turning them into hybrids, half human, half animal beings. There is his assistant on the island, and one day the son of her father's investor comes to the island and shakes things up. That is all I know. I will tell you the very stupid reason I want to read this book. I read The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter at the beginning of the year in February, I think. I really loved that book, and one of the characters in there is Catherine, who is one of Dr. Moreau's experiments. Obviously, it's fiction, and these books have nothing to do with each other. Catherine will not be a character, but I love that idea so much that I'm excited to explore the daughter of Dr. Moreau and how that is handled. Moving on to the books that I thrifted, I went to Book Off and I picked up a couple of books. So the first book that I picked up is Death Note. This is the Black Edition, Volume 1, which contains Volume 1 and Volume 2 in the manga series. If you don't know what Death Note is, Death Note follows the story of this boy who finds a diary or a journal one day, and it has a demon attached to it, and whoever's name he writes into that journal, that notebook, they die, hence Death Note. And I believe the story is about moral right and wrong, and whether sacrificing someone for the good of someone else is a good thing. I know so many people love this book. I know some people love the anime. So I'm super excited to read this. I picked this up for $13 at Book Off. And look at how pretty it is. I think I'll be reading this in the new year. If Winterween is happening, this will be on my TBR. Also from Book Off, I have 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. This was $1, so I was super excited to read it. Of all of the Peter Swanson books, I think that I will enjoy this one the most. So years ago, this writer dude, he wrote this article, this book that's 8 perfect murders, the way people kill people and how they get away with it, right? The most unsolvable murders. So we're in the future, and the FBI is now at this writer's door because there is a string of unsolved murders that are really, really similar to the article that Mal, the writer, wrote. I know that of all the Peter Swanson books, most people tend to enjoy this one. I think that I'm going to enjoy this one the most. So when I saw it for $1, I snatched it on up. And that's everything I picked up from Book Off before I hopped on over to the next thrift store. This is my favorite place to thrift books because all of the books are pretty new, fairly popular, and hella fucking cheap. The next 3 books I'm going to show you in total cost me $2.70 for all 3 of them. So the first is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. I never actually planned to read this, but I read plenty of books that are somewhat similar to the premise of this. So I believe this is a romance about Eleanor, who is very socially awkward. She has a hard time understanding social cues. She's pretty lonely in her life, and that she spends a lot of time by herself. One day she runs into her corporation's IT guy who has this big warm heart, and they fall in love. It sounds like a pretty generic romance story, but the book only cost me $1. It's something that was already on my radar, so I will give this a go later on in the year. I believe these next 2 books cost me somewhere in the 50 to 90 cent range. So this is The Last Thing He Told Me. All of these books are on sale. So you see the original price was $1.99 and it was 75% off. Good times to read. So The Last Thing He Told Me is something, again, that was just generally on my radar. It was super cheap, so I picked it up. I don't know a lot about this, but I know it's about this woman whose husband goes missing, and she gets a letter from him saying protect her. She knows without a doubt that the person that he wants her to protect is his daughter. And it's a murder mystery, I think, or a mystery. I love mysteries. I know this book has pretty mixed reviews, but I want to give it a go and gather my own thoughts and opinions about it. Prepare to be shocked for how freaking cheap this book was. Again, in the 50 to like 70 cent range. This is The Push by Ashley Audrain. Are you also shocked that I found this book in the thrift store for that cheap? That's how I felt when I found Delilah Gray Doesn't Care in that same bookstore a few months ago for $1, and that was a fairly new release. So in case you don't know, The Push has gotten a lot of popularity. So many people love this book, although I do know some people also really hate it. This is a debut book. The Push follows this mother who really didn't want kids, but she ends up having a daughter, and she feels no connection to her daughter whatsoever. She thinks her daughter is kind of fucked up and a bit evil, and we follow the story of that because she then later on has a son and has no difficulty connecting to her son whatsoever. The story is about generational trauma, I believe, these complicated relationships that mothers and daughters have had throughout her family lineage, and the question of, is her daughter actually fucking evil, or is my girl really struggling? I am ready to read this, although I know it will be very emotionally heavy. So this is something I'm going to put off until I feel like I'm ready to read. But at like 75 cents, you know I was gonna pick it up. And we move on to the Barnes & Noble book sale. Now, last year, Barnes & Noble also had this like surprise sale. Everybody was like, what the fuck? Where they took all of their hardcovers and they made them 50% off. Now, Barnes & Noble frequently does like buy one, get one 50% off hardcovers, but they rarely ever do the 50% off all hardcovers. You buy one, it's half off. So this year, I knew that they were gonna have that sale. I went on their website at midnight on December 26th, and I took my ass to that bookstore right when it opened. And I will tell you, I picked up a lot of really amazing books. I will also tell you, they're not sneaky. Like, they take most of the hardcovers off of the shelves. Most of the books that I found because I was the first one there, and there was only 1 or 2 copies of hardcovers in the store of these books. And as someone who frequents Barnes & Nobles quite a lot, I'm like, y'all usually have a lot of hardcovers, and you just opened this morning, so I know they didn't sell out. But anyway, let me show you the books that I got. Most of these are going to be thrillers and horrors, just because the other genre that I read is like romance, and romance rarely publishes in hardcover, although like I said, I know that sometimes they do, and I know that Barnes & Noble stocks them, but they just happen to be off the shelves during this sale. 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. If you are new here, I'm not sure if I've actually mentioned this because I read these books before I started my booktube channel, but I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, that entire series. I fucking loved it, including the 3rd book I adored. So this is Holly Jackson's newest book, 5 Survive. It is a road trip story about 6 friends who are like driving across the country in an RV until they break down and they realize that someone else has intentionally broken them down and is hunting them. And the big question is someone in their group lying? It is a classic murder mystery. I'm super excited to read it, especially because it takes place on the road. I've just loved Holly Jackson's other work, so I really have high hopes that I'm going to love this one as well. And most of the books, actually all of the books in this pile from the Barnes & Noble sale, are in the $13 to $15 range. Then we have Daphne by Josh Malerman. I will tell you, this was 100% inspired by Gabby Reed's. I know that she read this book and she enjoyed it. I've seen it go around quite a few times. This book is also super shiny, so apologize for the reflection. I love Josh Malerman's book that I read, The House Beneath the Lake or something like that. Fucking love that book. It was great. So Daphne follows like this basketball team, I think, and they have like this almost Bloody Mary story about Daphne, who was a girl on the basketball team and she was murdered, and you're not supposed to think about Daphne at all, otherwise you're going to like bring her to you. And we're following our main character who has a lot of anxiety, and I think that this story is more about her anxiety and the idea of like intrusive thoughts and struggling not to think about something and how that brings in the thoughts. It sounds like something that I will enjoy. I hope that there are supernatural elements to it, considering how much I love loved The House Beneath the Lake. I'm sure that's not the name of the book, but it will be on the screen for you to see it, that I will also love this book. This book has made so many rounds and is so many people's top book of 2022. I have a reading vlog coming up, so you'll see it. But I was so excited to pick this up and see it at Barnes & Noble in the sale. We Spread by Ian Reid is a story that makes a lot of people cry. It is a story about this woman who is slowly starting to lose her memories and like her ability to take care of herself, and people come to her house and say, hey, you made this plan to come live at this retirement village, you picked it out, you vetted it, you loved it, we're gonna take care of you. But she doesn't remember that, and she's struggling to remember whether or not that's something that actually happened, or if she's just losing her grip on her memories, who she is, her identity, who she is once everything she's known is taken away from her. The sinister element is that we're in her head and we actually don't know if she really did make these arrangements or if she's just been taking it to this home. Like I said, I know it makes people cry. It is technically like a horror, I'd say thriller, and not a thriller. I don't know. It's like genre defying. This cover is so pretty, and I am also excited to read this and see if it becomes one of my favorite books. Considering that it's been the #1 book for a lot of people that I watch on BookTube, I might start the year off with this book. Then we have Runtime, which I will tell you is so much thicker than I was expecting it to be, considering how relatively short the audiobook is. If you saw my last video where I told you my 5-star predictions, then you would have heard me talk about this book. It is a 5-star prediction. This is a story about an actress. The book is literally in my hand, and yet I don't know the person's name. Let me look at this. It's a story about this actress named Adele. And Adele has been out of work for some time, but she really loves acting. One day she gets the opportunity to play a major role in this horror film, and she goes up and she does it because the film crew had to replace their lead actress. When she gets there, she also realized they replaced pretty much the entire cast and crew. This is a somewhat meta book because it's a story about an actress who is filming a movie based on a book. So the things that are happening in the script are actually happening to her in real life, which are mirroring the things that happened in the book. And she's creeped the fuck out because of that, but also because she is the only woman on this set full of male cast and crew members where something has already gone wrong. She just doesn't know what. That sounds like something that is right up my street. It is a 5-star prediction, as I mentioned, so of course I picked it up during the Barnes & Noble sale. It's also really fucking heavy. Like, this is a dense book. Then I have Jackal. Now, Jackal is the story of this woman named Liz, and Liz is coming back to a small town where she grew up in Pennsylvania, and she's not happy to be there because it is predominantly white. Liz is a black woman, and she does not have pleasant memories of being in this small town, but she's in town for a wedding of her friend. She doesn't think much of it. She thinks she's going to get through it until one day the daughter of the happy couple goes missing. And it is a story about what happened and the disappearance of BIPOC women in this town. I am excited to read it. I know it's something that I think that I'm going to love, and also this cover is absolutely beautiful. I will also probably read this during Winterweed. Killers of a Certain Age. Now, Killers of a Certain Age is by Miss Deanna Raybourn, who wrote the Veronica Speedwell series. I wasn't planning to pick this up, but I was watching Chandler's Top Books of the Year, and she mentioned this book. And you know what? She convinced me. She convinced me that I should read this. So this is a story about 4 women who were assassins in their youth, and they are ready to retire. Their organization, which is not the government, says, cool, you can retire. Let's send you on a retirement cruise. But of course, wee woo, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And when they get on the boat, they quickly find that someone is trying to kill them. I think it's gonna be a good time. I think it will be a fun read at minimum, and I am excited to get into it. I love the premise of 4 elderly women who used to be assassins trying to save their own asses. That sounds like a good time to me. Then I have Slewfoot by Brom. Now this one I knew I wanted the physical copy of because it is full of beautiful illustrations. Let me show you. You can kind of see that through the reflection of the light. But Slewfoot is the story of this girl who moves to America in like the 1600s. She fucking hates everyone. I don't know. She summons a demon. Demon is named Slewfoot. That's all I really need to know. Just know a lot of people have loved this book. This is Slewfoot on the back. It is full of gorgeous illustrations. I know that it is a great story, so I own it and I'm very happy to own it. And also this cover feels so nice. And the only romance book in this haul, because again, all the hardcovers were mysteriously gone from the shelves for the most part, we have A Merry Little Meet Cute, which let me tell you, for some reason was in the YA section. I'm like 99% sure that this is not YA, considering that it follows an adult film star. This just sounds so freaking fun. Okay, so we're following B, who is a plus-size adult film star with a very successful career. One day her manager casts her as the lead role in this kind of Hallmark movie. They call it the Hope Network. It's a Hallmark Christmas movie. It turns out her co-star is actually her childhood crush, and they have to work together. And she's like, oh, that's gonna be so annoying. But him, let's say that she has like an OnlyFans account. They call it Closed Doors, and he is a member of her OnlyFans. So he recognizes her, and this is their love story. And that just sounds like hilarious good times. I love the plus size main character rep, and I also love that we have a sex worker in here. So I'm super excited to read this book, as I am with all of them, but also very confused as to why this was in the YA section. Those are all of the books that I picked up in the past couple of weeks, and every book that I picked up from the Barnes & Noble book sale. But I had such a good time at the sale. This is my last haul of 2022 and probably my last haul for a couple of months. But now I have the task of reorganizing my priority bookshelf and squeezing these books on there. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you being here. If you would like to subscribe, please do. Your support would mean a lot, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.